announcement of everything.
Good evening. It is 6 o'clock on August 18th, 2026, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Village of Sugar Grove Board meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
President Stilwell.
Here.
Trustee Lundy.
Here.
Trustee Bonnie.
Here.
Trustee Michaels.
Here.
Trustee Special.
Here.
Trustee London. Here. Trustee Roscoff.
Here.
Thank you. We have no public hearing this evening, no proclamation, no presentations, no appointments. And up next, we have airport report. Trustee Special.
Thank you. I first want to just let everybody know it's a broken heart that I'm here to say that my beautiful wife had passed away on August 5th. But being home is more difficult than going to a meeting, so I felt it was important for me to attend the meeting. And thank you to everybody that has reached out, and no report on the airport report.
Thank you. Up next, we have public comments on scheduled action items. It looks like Gary Thompson, you may be the only one signed up for the first public comment.
First, let me apologize for wearing a hat inside the building. I was at the dermatologist today, so my mother would not be happy with me. I want to briefly address a couple items on the agenda, even though I previously addressed a couple of them by email. First on data center, took several reviews of the August 13 Joint Review Board video, the associated visuals, and finally Ms. Stillwell's numerous Facebook posts to finally understand that the whole premise of her unilateral calling for a special board meeting is an alleged nefarious conspiracy to deliberately withhold the 2022 water study from the Joint Review Board. The August 10th EEI letter makes clear that the water study was hypothetical, general in nature. It assumed water usage nearly 4 times higher than the current demand. In addition, the allowable water use for a Crown data center was highly restrictive, and the limit was actually lower than the residential rate. It's even further irrelevant since a generalized study based on assumptions about changing data center cooling technology in 2022 cannot be treated as though it were a current project-specific analysis. If the cooling technology contemplated by the study is not what is supposed to be proposed in today's systems, it's even less relevant. Taken together with the other points outlined in the EEI letter, the study had no relevance to the JRB review of the TIF. The convoluted accusations she's made, whether directly or by implication, are typical of an adversarial style that does not encourage her favorite word, collaboration. I trust you all thoroughly read the EEI letter. Next one is the Joint Review Board meeting. The entire presentation was disjointed, confusing, too busy to follow, with visuals that were largely unreadable. I hope you had an opportunity to view the meeting yourself. It is also important to note that no member received the handouts in advance, which limited the ability for anyone to properly prepare. I'd also encourage you to review the verbal exchange between the village attorney and the Kane County representative, who, by the way, cast a no vote for the original TIF. The village attorney was dismissive of the Kane County member, who presented an opinion from the state's attorney, stating that there is no authority for the JRB to meet on this issue. The Kane County member appeared well prepared and supported by that legal opinion. I hope you watched that exchange. At this point, the presentation's central theme appeared to be a need for an additional engineering study. However, the proposed resolution did not include any requirements for such a study, creating a disconnect between the presentation and the action being requested. Again, members had not previously seen the resolutions as the village attorney was scrambling to make copies during the meeting. Based on the information provided, I do not see how any unbiased JRB member could in good faith reasonably support any of the resolutions. To apply a business term, the presentation was no source of truth. Next item, City Hall. Just a comment, I have to do this, sorry Scott. I believe it's premature to discuss the future City Hall before a strategic plan has been developed
Gary,
and approved.
unfortunately, you're at the 3 minutes, but you can step up to the second public comments if you want.
Yeah, well, it would have been nice if you forwarded the same liberty that you allowed others. That's okay. Those strategic plans, the point.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at the first public comments? All right. Yes, Jane.
Good evening, Jaden Chadda. I actually have kind of a different comment tonight. I somewhat agree with one of the last points that Gary just made. I think it is premature to discuss anything related to a new town hall, considering that the village taxpayers may be on the hook for, depending on how many new wells need to be drilled, $4 to $8 million, and that is not a Crown or TIF expense based on the water report findings and the 2022 data center report that in, I believe, what was it, September 19th or 20th, 2022, the village board actually discussed the report that was commissioned by EEI, and that would have been everyone that had voted for Crown minus Sean that was there for that discussion. Sean was not a trustee at that time, and then all of a sudden the study just doesn't show up to the trustees, and nobody followed up to ask for it. And it has some pretty interesting information that says that the village could be out of water in the aquifer by, I think, 2033, and that doesn't account for the other subdivisions that were approved at the end of the last village president's term, Brighton Ridge, and then the extension of Settlers Ridge. So if you guys don't mind including that in your conversation tonight, with that new study and the fact that it doesn't account for those new subdivisions, I think that's a very important point to make. But yeah, I think it's premature and inappropriate to discuss paying for a new town hall at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at the first public comments? All right, hearing none, we will close public comment at this time. Up next, we have the consent agenda. We have approval of the August 4th, 2026 village board meeting minutes, approval of the vouchers, approval of the July 2026 treasurer's report, and a resolution authorizing an expenditure for the 2026 Illinois Municipal League Conference. Would anybody like to remove an item from the consent agenda?
I would.
Okay, which one?
I would like to remove item A, B, and D.
Okay. Is there a motion and a second to approve item C on the consent agenda?
Make that motion.
We have a first from trustee Michaels. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from trustee Special. If we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy,
Aye.
Trustee London? Aye. Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and item C on the consent agenda is approved. We will open discussion for A, approval of the August 4th, 2026 village board meeting minutes.
I removed this item. I talked to Tracy. There were a couple of minor typo type situation, scenarios. I gave her my markups. So I'd like that it can be approved by, as noted. I'm not sure how you want to call that out, but she has the minor changes.
Okay. And then we will open discussion for item B, the approval of the vouchers.
Did you
Or
want
do
to
you
take a
want
vote on that?
Or do you want to, can we discuss A, B, and D and then vote on an H? Okay. All right, is there a motion and a second to approve the August 4th, 2026 village board meeting minutes with the minor changes made by trustee Lundy?
I'll make that motion for discussion, not for approval.
For discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, we were discussing. Do you have additional discussion?
It'd be nice to know what the changes are, because
Yeah, if
trustee
you wanna
Lindy
show
could
'em-
say, consider them minor, and it could be major to somebody else. so.
Okay.
Yep. There are two things. One looks like it's a typo.
There's a list of word here.
Okay.
And just the word left out.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as modified.
We have a first from trustee Michael, is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second from trustee Roscoff, if we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee London?
Aye.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and item A, the approval of the August 4th, 2026 village board meeting minutes as amended is approved. Up next, we have item B, approval of the vouchers. We will open discussion at this time.
Yeah, I removed that because I had a question. I don't know, I had a call in to our finance director, but I don't know if she's in today or not.
She is not.
Okay. I had a question on the vouchers. We have a large amount for engineering enterprises, and I was wondering if these were broken up for the discussion of the Crown property that took place regarding, right around July 4th, and the ongoing slew of emails that went on. Are any of these related to that?
I had asked the finance director to remove those from the vouchers. They should not be included. It's unfortunate that she is not here today. Is there any sort of?
They're not included in these vouchers. We haven't received the bill yet that would have the email correspondence on the, from the around July 4th flooding and the email questions that came after that, where there was an email sent to the board with an estimated amount. We have not received that bill yet, and that is not part of this voucher run.
The emails that you're referring to in question are disputed. They've been formally disputed. They will be disputed until that issue is resolved. I do not think that we should have to pay for items stemming from what I believe to be professional negligence. For example, I sent one email asking, who did you send this to? Which in any normal situation would be a name and a time. We received a 33-page defense to the question, who did you send this to? And our taxpayers will not be paying for an engineer to come up with a 33-page response to who did you send this to.
So,
So those should not be included in these amounts.
my
What?
basic question was it included in here, and it is not, so that would be the answer, correct?
Are we certain that it is not?
We haven't received that invoice yet.
There was,
We expect to get
there
it.
was one invoice that referenced $11,000.
So that wasn't an invoice yet that we received. It was, I asked for an estimate of what
It's just an
what it was gonna be. It was an estimate. We have not received that invoice yet.
Okay.
Typically, so at the end of, or close to the end, the billing cycle's not exactly lined up with the month, but near the end of July, EEI, and Michelle's here, she could, please correct me if I'm wrong, but
That's
towards the end of the
correct.
month, you start processing your bill with your internal, that they have to do, and then it goes to like their billing people, and then we typically get it, we'll get it later in August. So
Okay.
it'll be on one of the voucher runs, or it would be part of the bills that we would normally pay in September. So it is definitely not in the vouchers that are here tonight.
Okay.
I can
that-
confirm that.
Is there any breakdown of these vouchers that are here tonight so we know what we're approving?
So I believe all of the bills are sent out, the vouchers are posted online. If you'd like a specific invoice and all that,
There's,
it is.
it's
It just-
online. Yeah, it's all there.
Okay. Is it with the specific projects, or does it just say EEI? Because you were unable to.
Just total.
Yeah,
It's just totals.
it totals, the dates, the amount, the totals, and that's why I was trying to get a hold of, our finance director, because then the invoice reference number would be what she would look up for the specific bill, I believe, is how that works.
Yeah, we can pull any specific bill related to the invoices when they're posted and sent out. We can pull, and if there's one or an amount or something we want to pull specifically, we can pull it up and email it. I'm sorry if Karen isn't in to answer today. If you CC me or in the future or somebody else, I could have got it over and had Brett pull it. I apologize, I didn't see her, it was nowhere in the email, but we could have tried to get that out and pull it out pretty quickly. But what we've always posted online is the invoice register.
Okay, I'm concerned that we don't have the breakdown here tonight. For example, for the entire water study that we'll be discussing later, the cost for that was $8,000 for an entire water study. To answer my emails, EEI charged $11,000, more than the entire water study.
So-
I believe, hold on, please, I'm not finished. I believe that is an attempt to pressure me to stop asking questions, which unfortunately has led to a situation where we can't ask questions of our own engineer. And so because there are disputed amounts, I am concerned about approving these. Did you want to go ahead and approve them tonight, or do you want to approve the vouchers without those until we have specifics from Karen?
I don't have a problem approving these vouchers as long as it didn't have the specific ones that I had questions on. Which you said it is not because they haven't been mailed.
So I can tell you how our billing works. We go.
Do you mind coming up to the microphone just so we can catch you on the recording to help Tracy with the minutes?
So any invoices that you would have received to date do not include anything past June 20th, is what
Okay.
I'll tell you.
That's fine.
All right, are there any other questions on the vouchers? Is there a motion and a second to approve the vouchers?
I'll make the motion.
We have a
I'll
first
second
from trustee Roscoff, is there a second?
that. I'll make that second.
We have a second from trustee Lindy, if we can have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Roscoff.
Aye.
Trustee Lindy.
Aye.
Trustee London.
Aye.
Trustee Special.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the vouchers have been approved. Up next, we have a resolution authorizing an expenditure for the 2026 IML conference. We will open discussion at this time. To my knowledge, I believe Nora and Heidi are attending.
Correct. This is, Tracy can correct me, this one is for me because we'll do Nora's expense before. I'd like to correct this. Last time I went for just one day and all it was the fee we paid. I took the train and paid for my own food. I would like to remove some of the costs on this. The meals I'd like to take off, the miscellaneous, and the transportation is only gonna cost me $44 if I take the train all 3 days. So I'd like to reduce the amount that we're approving on this.
That is appreciated, the costs are high, especially the parking and things like that. The reason I do not attend is because of the cost, so that's appreciated that you're careful.
Could you just clarify real quick for the record which ones you want to reduce so we get it correct?
Basically, you know what, you can take it all off and just do the registration fee. I'll pay for the train ticket for all 3 days. And, you know, it's a first come, first serve for the certain number of box lunches they have. If I can't get there and line myself up just right, I'll bring some granola bars, not a big deal. I'm not gonna spend $300 and some dollars. I know it's nothing on Tracy, that's just the statutory or whatever the amount that you fill in, but yeah, I don't think I could even find a way to spend that much money for lunches, so. So just the registration fee is fine, just like last time.
Which is how much?
It is $325 for all 3 days.
Okay, so that's what you want us to approve.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any other discussion? Is there a motion and a second to approve the resolution authorizing the expenditure for the 2026 IML conference?
I'll make that motion.
We have a first from
With the
trustee
revised
Special.
amount, I'm sorry.
Oh,
With the-
apologies, as amended.
Yes, I'll make that motion as amended.
We have a first from trustee Special, is there a second?
Oh, second.
And a second from trustee Michaels, if we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Special.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff.
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
Trustee Lindy.
Aye.
Trustee London.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and a resolution authorizing an expenditure for the 2026 IML conference is approved. Up next, we have general business. Is there a motion and a second to discuss and vote on a resolution authorizing a PSA with EEI for Maple Street and Joy Court water main replacement design engineering?
I'll make that motion to discuss and approve.
We have a first from trustee Special, is there a second?
Second.
And a second from trustee Bonnie. And Brad Merkel will be presenting this item.
Good evening, everyone. Before you today is a PSA for the Maple Street and Joy Court water main replacement, design engineering, and bidding. And then once we get bidding back, we will come back with that construction observation, because it's a percentage of the cost of the total project. So This has been budgeted and talked about for years. I think we should take advantage. We've seen some pretty good pricing on paving this year, so I think we should take advantage of it. Move this project forward.
Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, if we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Special,
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie,
Aye.
Trustee Lundy,
Aye.
Trustee London. Aye. Trustee Michaels,
Aye.
Trustee Roscoe.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and a resolution authorizing a PSA with EEI for Maple Street and Joy Corps water main replacement design engineering is approved. Up next, is there a motion to discuss and vote on a resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement with Kane School District?
Make a motion.
We have a first from trustee Roscoff. Is there a second?
Make that second.
And a second from trustee London. Danny Marion will present this item.
You all have previously approved the school district's transportation facility. They are looking to get going with construction. And one thing that we need to approve is an intergovernmental agreement in place of a letter of credit for the water main work that will be done. A similar agreement was done with the fire district on their Denny Road site. So the school district is also asking for an intergovernmental agreement with the village in place of the letter of credit.
Is there any discussion?
We have a way to resolve any conflict. If they say the work's done and we say it's not, is there a review
Yes.
board?
I believe there's language in the agreement. I think that's what it calls out.
I looked at it.
Right, I had our attorneys review this for us.
Yeah, I think it was something we discussed. I didn't, they might not have known about our discussion, but I would make a motion to approve it subject to attorney review. And if you feel that that language is needed, Danny, you could add it.
I will confirm that there's something in there. I'm thinking
There's
there's,
indemnification in paragraph 6, that hold harmless the village hold harmless.
Sure. Yeah, it was more if there was a conflict between the school district saying it was done, we say it's not.
I will have the attorneys
That's a
confirm
good point.
that.
Because
If needed.
usually you could go to a bond, and pull a bond if the work wasn't done, but
So confirm the language.
that's
Number five.
That's fine.
Number 5, completion.
Completion improvements.
Keeneland School District further agrees to complete all public improvements in accordance with the approved engineering plans in a complete and workmanlike manner. The village reserves the right of inspections of all public improvements on subject property and additionally reserves the right to reject any improvements that don't comply with the approved engineering plans. Do you feel that covers it enough?
yeah, I mean, staff would have to enforce it.
Yeah.
All right, is there any other discussion? All right, hearing none, can we have roll call, please, Tracy?
Trustee Roscoe.
Aye.
Trustee London. Aye. Trustee Lundy,
Aye.
Trustee Special,
Aye.
Trustee Michaels,
Aye.
Trustee Bonnie.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and a resolution approving an intergovernmental agreement with Kane School District is approved. And then, up next is public comments. We have, Robert Palm. Did you just want an answer to your question?
Yeah, yeah.
Robert Palm asked for an update on the Higgis Road Bridge. I'm happy to provide that. So currently it's in phase 2 engineering with IDOT. We do not have an exact date yet, but we should be able to update as soon as we have that. We sent a follow-up to IDOT as recently as this week.
It's terrific. I did just noticed that the current condition is starting to fall back to what it was
Yeah.
early spring.
Brad and the Township Road District are gonna continue patching until the IDOT steps in and starts to work on the replacement. Is there any update on that?
We haven't had a chance to get out there with all the storm cleanup.
Okay.
It's on our schedule.
It's on the-
Hopefully this week we can get out there.
Okay.
We're short-staffed.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Jeff Freeman.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Freeman. I am the CEO of Engineering Enterprises Incorporated, often referred to as EEI. Our corporate office is located at 52 Wheeler Road here in Sugar Grove. Before commenting on agenda items 13A and 13B, I believe it is important to provide context. EEI has been in business for 52 years, and for 30 of those years, our corporate office has been located in Sugar Grove. Our firm's values are professional excellence, better, growth, family and relationships, trust, and fairness. These are the standards we expect of ourselves and the standards we have brought to serve this community. Tonight I am here in support of our 85 associates, including Michelle Piotrowski, your village engineering consultant and a member of EEI's ownership group. EEI has been committed to serving the village for decades. We have completed many important projects for the village, including the design of the village's water treatment plants, which produce nationally recognized drinking water. We have also supported this community through the Corn Boil, the EDC, the Chamber, Adopt a Highway on Bliss Road, community event sponsorships, and by hosting the Between Friends Food Pantry rent-free for many years. At last week's JRB meeting, comments were made regarding the Illinois State Water Survey Data Center sustainability analyses coordinated by our firm. I'm here tonight to reiterate that the sustainability analyses were shared with village staff, and they helped influence the water use constraints in the Grove annexation agreement. As a result, the Grove's annexation agreement limits water use to 9 population equivalents per acre, which would not allow a high water use data center to locate in the development. The reason that theoretical data center sustainability analysis was not included in public hearings is straightforward. It had already served its purpose by influencing policy, and the annexation agreement had already addressed the issue. Presenting it as though a high water use data center remained a possibility could have created confusion rather than clarity, because the water use threshold was already set in the annexation agreement. Including the analysis would have been akin to developing a presentation that contains incorrect interpretation to support a one-sided narrative. We strongly object to the village president stating the information was hid or concealed, and tonight's statement of professional negligence. There is no evidence to support those statements, and they go directly to the integrity of the professional engineers who have served this community faithfully and responsibly. We have requested the opportunity to meet with the village president to discuss this topic and others, but those requests have been repeatedly denied. Since our integrity has now been questioned publicly, we believe it is necessary to respond publicly. We remain proud of our work, proud of our people, and proud of our long history in Sugar Grove. We stand by our values, we stand by Michelle Piotrowski, and we stand ready to have a full, factual, and respectful conversation with the entire board if the board wishes to hear the full story. Thank you.
Thank you. I have additional questions for you, but they would probably be more appropriate under item 13A if you'll still be here. Up next is Michelle Piotrowski.
I do have something I want to share with this data center study.
So that we should wait until
Isn't
we're
that
at
where we're at?
13A? No, it's public comment.
Oh,
Yeah, I
I'm
was
sorry.
confused. I thought we were at 13.
Mine was
Public
just-
comment.
Tracy,
What was that?
it wasn't just me.
Oh.
I speak
But not very
today
nice.
as I speak today as an engineer, specifically the village engineer, and as someone directly involved in several of the studies discussed at the JRB meeting. My role is not to establish policy, interpret statutes, or advocate for or against the Grove Development or TIF. My responsibility is to provide technical analysis, review engineering calculations and design, and implement the direction established by the village board and its advisors. For context, the JRB presentation was prepared without my involvement. While I offered to discuss these matters directly, many questions were addressed through email correspondence, 90+ pages of emails to be specific, until we wrote the memos. As a result, The presentation relied on select excerpts from extensive email discussions while omitting important context contained in memoranda provided to the village president and village board, as well as in the underlying studies themselves. And that was done before the JRB meeting. First, I echo the comments of Jeff Freeman regarding that State Water Survey data center study. Accordingly, the Water System Master Plan was based on the village's adopted growth projections through 2050, not the hypothetical data center scenario. Based on the Water System Master Plan, no additional wells are needed through 2050. We continue to stand behind the Water System Master Plan and the engineering analyses supporting it. Second, regarding flooding and the TIF, the statute does not provide a specific engineering metric for determining what constitutes alleviating all or part of a flooding condition. For that reason, we collaborated with the village and village attorney, and it is our understanding the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance would be utilized as the objective engineering standard. At the time of annexation, only conceptual plans existed, with detailed stormwater analyses and certifications occurring during final engineering. Finally, the July 2nd through July 4th storm event was extraordinary. Rainfall intensities exceeded 100-year and at times 500-year storm levels across an already saturated region, causing widespread flooding throughout northeastern Illinois. While total rainfall volume was significant, the primary factor was the intensity and rate of rainfall over a short period, combined with back-to-back storm events. No two storm events are identical, which is why stormwater design relies on established standards such as the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance's 100-year storm criteria, rather than attempting to model every possible rainfall event. I appreciate the opportunity to provide this technical perspective. While 3 minutes does not allow for a comprehensive discussion of these complex topics, I welcome any questions. It's all I'm going to say. I welcome the board. I've offered it in the past. I welcome the questions. I'm here to answer any, and I will provide them gladly.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak at public comments? Yes.
I didn't get a chance to sign in. If you want me to sign in, I will.
No.
Okay.
Jim Eckert.
All right. Jim Eckert. Need me to state my address, or are you good?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. So no, one of the things I was looking through is the study itself today. And it kind of reflects back when I worked at ComEd. I really wish it wouldn't say data center study. I wish it would just say growth. You know, when I was on the planning commission for a number of years, we had a lot of different potentials coming in. You know, we had once the data center, we had the fulfillment centers from Amazon coming in. And we worried about the water drain off, you know, and Michelle helped us out on that as well, right? So what we do is, you use what she provides you as a tool. So now you got a tool saying, okay, if we have a manufacturer or a data center coming in, and it's gonna be more than 9,000 gallons per minute flow or need, you know, then we're gonna have to address that. It'll be at their cost, of course, or we mitigate it in some way, shape, or form. So when I was reading through the study itself, again, what happens if the fulfillment centers never came in? Not yet anyways, right? Data centers right now, when this study was done in 2002, a lot of data centers that I was working with, because I built substations for them and working at ComEd, they were open body, you need potable water. So much has changed now. Glycol cooling has come in, closed cooling water systems have come in. They're not using as much as they had in the past. So yeah, the report was good. It gave us it's a great tool. But it was good for the time. I don't know if we even have a data center that came in with specifications yet or not. But then you got to take a look at it and say, okay, if you want to come in, then you're going to exceed our 9,000. We're going to have to ask you for mitigating opportunities. Same with the storm flow. You know, when I build projects, they built a temporary flow. We did the engineering study. We looked at it. Yeah, there were times where we didn't agree with it. And there were times where we have to go back to our engineers and say, hey, I don't understand this, and this. And they build into their price study that, hey, we need a 10% time for you to follow up backup. But then, yeah, we had to pay them for that, anything over that, or if we asked something in return. But anyways, I guess getting around to it, I kind of wish that it didn't say data center. If the village got approached by a drone manufacturing facility, and they were going to be using water, right? It's just, it was okay for the data center. We threw kind of EEI under the bus when we said, here was the data center. But we didn't give them a lot of specifications. What we said is, it may be. Just do the study. It's very difficult to do that and then say, hey, you got to stand behind it. When Michelle and others put their certificate, their pedigree on that piece of paper, yes, they've used the models, they've done the studies. I've had secondary engineers on my project look at the first. They're not going to say, no, it's wrong. What they're going to say is we either conclude or there may be some additional questions, right? But they're an ally to us. You know, when you ask other engineering firms, okay, I've used V3 on other ones. I've used other ones. Was that me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Thank you,
sorry.
Jim.
I'm sorry. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at this? Public comments? Jamie Chen.
I'm going to kind of jump around a little bit here. I'm not going to read my entire comment from the JRB, just a portion of it. So Michelle just said that they did a lot of technical analysis. I don't know what kind of technical analysis you have to do to get to the conclusion that water runs downhill and downstream into the watershed to conclude that 750 acres qualifies for a nearly $110 million TIF. But without studies quantifying the alleged contribution to downstream flooding, how could they determine how much detention was necessary to correct that specific problem? Michelle from EEI has pointed to Crown's compliance with the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance as justification, but Crown was required to comply with that anyway for their development. Stormwater Ordinance compliance does not prove that the alleged TIF-specific problem was remedied. The development creates new runoff that must be detained, so without a pre-development baseline, how can you distinguish between detention needed to manage new development runoff and detention intended to correct the alleged runoff SB Friedman used to justify the TIF, or determine whether or not the basins are large enough to correct it? And I would like to remind the board and those listening, if anybody was at one of the last board meetings that the former village president so graciously held until 1 in the morning, the founder of EEI, Sean's father, Jim Michaels, stood up and said in his public comment that the engineering was not sufficient, that you guys did not have enough info to come to that conclusion. Heidi agreed with it. These are not insignificant questions when the justification is being used to provide a private enterprise with $110 million in tax dollars. Crown Community Development, private company. Why are we giving them $110 million to develop their own land? It's just ridiculous to me. And now if we go over to the water usage, I'm going to read a small excerpt from the annexation agreement. The village acknowledges and agrees to provide the property with 9 population equivalents, PE, per gross acre. So that's across the entire property, 750 acres. That adds up to about 685, roughly, 1,000 gallons a day. And if you look at the minutes from that meeting, September 10th, 2024, Trustee White, who I very much disagreed with on this project, asked that the language make clear that the village should, quote, should not be required to provide more than the 9 PE per acre. That language never found its way inside the annexation agreement. So take that as you will. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to speak at the second public comment? Lou.
Lou Lengy, Sugar Grove, and I'm going to address the big elephant in the room. For over a decade, we've watched our nation's politics degrade into incivility and hostility. We've watched our leaders abuse our allies, promulgate misinformation and pseudoscience, and wage petty personal conflicts, all with impunity. Do you know why this is happening? It's because we're letting it happen. It's because we elected officials that won't stand up and say, wait, stop. No. We don't do that here. We're better than that. Since taking office just over a year ago, Sue has ranted and rage-baited on social media. She has picked fights with our allies, and I'm not talking about her petty little squabble with the Chamber of Commerce. She was so obnoxious with IDOT that they considered boycotting her participation at the IML lobby in Springfield. And most recently, we've seen her publicly abuse our engineer, spout wild conspiracy theories, and act like she knows more about civil engineering than every actual professional in the conversation. She called a meeting of the Joint Review Board so dubious that many of the participants openly questioned the very legality of it, and some didn't even show because of that. And she's even made the ridiculous claim that a licensed professional cannot consider the advice of counsel. We're a laughingstock. And do you know why this is happening? Because we let it happen. Because we elected officials that won't stand up and say, wait, stop. No, this isn't how we do things. We're better than this. Trustees, I'm talking to you. Tony, I watched Sue tear into Trustee Lendy over emails that she and you know both came from you. Did you speak up? No. You gotta do better. Mike, can you imagine what life in Windsor Point would be like if I ran the HOA behaving the way she behaves? You wouldn't tolerate it. Nora, I know that you understand how important it is that behavior like this not be allowed to take root at the state and local levels. And Sean, you've been in that chair longer than anybody, and you know how difficult it's going to be and how much time it's going to take to repair the damage done by her scorched earth crybaby tactics if they're allowed to go unchecked. So trustees, I'm asking you, all of you, please stop enabling this. Please stop normalizing her atrocious behavior. Call it out, speak up, do something, and maybe we can get some of the dignity and credibility that our village once enjoyed back. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak at the second public comment? All right, hearing none, we will close public comment at this time. Up next, we have discussion items, and the first is the data center study. I will start this one off. So, to address some of the points that Jim made, there seems to be some confusion. Parties are debating whether or not it is relevant. I will start out by saying I know it's relevant because when I started asking water questions, within 7 days of the election, EEI sent it to me, and it wouldn't have been sent to me if it wasn't relevant. There's no way they would have just sent irrelevant information. Second of all, so during the hearings, EEI had sent an email to Scott. The estimated water usage of Crown's project is 504,000 gallons per day. But they also need 790 gallons per minute. That 790 gallons per minute also includes the amount of water needed to maintain the pressure in those pipes. So if you look at the water study that was not shared by email or hard copy, that tier 1 is 500 gallons per minute. 790 is obviously, well within tiers 1 and 2. The difference is the number of wells that were assumed. Now, during the hearings, the village board was assured over and over, we do not need a new well until 2050. There's no way that we need a new well. So I was looking, hold on one second. And I do wish that we had a better relationship with an engineer right now so we could ask these questions. But if I do ask questions, I get bills for like $11,000 for asking the questions, so to try to get me to stop. The current water usage in Sugar Grove is approximately 1 million gallons per day. Gallons per day. In Settlers Ridge, it looks like 0.2779. In 0.2779 with the amount of units they're looking to add. Brayton Ridge would be 0.1162, and then the Crown property needs 790, which looks like 1.1376 million gallons per day total. However, again, this includes water that is needed to maintain the pressure. So the total, including everything that Crown has asked for, is 2.5317 million gallons per day. Our IEPA firm capacity looks like 2.5 million gallons per day. So if we had a better relationship with an engineer right now and I wasn't concerned about getting a bill for 11 grand, I would say to that engineer, hey, it looks like we are close to our IEPA firm capacity at full build out. It's a very reasonable question. So if we can only pump 2.5 million gallons per day before IEPA says you need a new well, we have an issue right now because even though our board was assured we did not need a well 12, we put a well 12 into our comprehensive plan, but it is not in our capital expenditures list. So we've already added that well to our plan. So if we build out early, the report that Michelle had used in her presentation assumed growth of 2% per year. We're already ahead of that and we have approved multiple new subdivisions. So this is actually a concern that we have approved a well, but we're told we didn't need one. I was also told that we can try to have a different developer cover that well 12. But my question for this board is why would any other developer, so like Ryan, Lennar, that is across the village, pay for a well 12 that needs to go over in the Crown area? During the hearings, our trustee, Sean, had asked EEI, how much development can we add before we need another well? Michelle's response was something like, and then you did not have a clear answer. This is on video, you're making a face, it's a literal video. And Scott had to answer. Scott provided that answer from an email that you had previously sent. So you're still saying that we can, we don't have to do anything until 2050. It looks like the IEPA limit is going to be reached probably before 2050, especially if at full build out for what we've approved, we're close or over. So my question is, where are we going to get that potential $4 million for this well 12 that made it into our comprehensive plan?
Well, there are water tap-on fees in every annexation agreement, which goes toward building the water system and wells that are needed. There's also capital fees that are also charged per unit, and those are built into those annexation agreements. I'm sure Scott would be able to provide us a report with what we've got included in what particular agreement.
Scott said zero, so I asked Scott this the other day, he said zero money is being allocated toward that well 12, nothing is in the capital.
Well 12, what I said was well 12 is not in the current capital improvement plan. Because we don't have a need, there hasn't been a need in the next 5 to 10 years of what's been approved and the discussions we've had with the engineer, we've not included well 12 in the current capital improvement plan. Our capital improvement plans look at 5 to 10 years out. There was a mention of potentially needing a well in 2050 or around then in the comp plan, but that far exceeds our current CIP.
Right.
So it's not in the CIP, but what Tony's saying is also true. There is a certain amount of money that we get in capital funds for different annexations. When there's a building permit paid, we get general fund capital funds, we get water fund capital funds as part of it. We don't have a specific use for it yet. We usually, when we get those funds, we collect them and then we address and add things to the CIP. We don't count on money that we haven't received yet when we do our budgeting typically. We will, once the money's received, otherwise we would have run into certain problems like when Settlers Ridge only built out a certain percentage or other developments didn't complete. We don't count on permit fees when we're doing our budgeting to pay for things into the future. We rather look at the money that we have because there's no guarantee that Brighton's going to build all 332 units, that Settlers is going to ever finish out. So we would never want to exclusively count on those fees. Instead, when we're budgeting, we try to look at the money that we know we have, or maybe short term, like the money that we're going to get in 1 year. But the long term, we're much more cautious on our budgeting. But if we see the need that if we get to this point we have to add a well, we would certainly start allocating money for that and adding it to the CIP to pay for the next test.
So Scott, the tap-on fees right now, they're just going to the general water fund to pay for capital improvements.
They go into the water, they go into the water fund and they go in then, identified into water capital and reserved for that, for the many different projects that we have on it.
Right, the user fees, when you get a water bill, there's a certain amount allocated toward expenses for production of water. There's a water meter replacement program and different things programmed into that. But with the annexation agreements, there's money, and Scott could prepare a little memo and a report what you collect per house. So in other words, if you don't build 100 houses, then you don't collect that money, then you don't need that water.
Okay, so I do wish Karen was here tonight, but we have some very expensive water main replacements coming up. To my knowledge, we do not have any large amount of extra.
Which is paid for by your water rate user, because that's for existing people,
Right, but
not new
20
people.
Is there, Michelle, would you mind stepping up, or anyone for me?
I do have a little more I want to say.
Okay, do you,
I want this, what's called data center study. It was based on bad information that we were given at one point, not by a consultant, not by anybody that worked for the village, not an employee. They were misunderstood in the information they were giving us on data centers, call it data centers. So at the time this report was being produced, it became worthless for what we were trying to do because it was based on bad information, so it didn't make sense to move forward with it. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been paying attention to all this stuff and what's going on with what's happening in my own life. So I'm sorry, I'm a little bit behind on bringing this forward, but basically it was garbage in, garbage out. Now, if you do what Michelle says, hypothetical, and you came up with all this stuff, then you can say that, but Crown is locked in, and Jaden calculated the number, and that's all they get is around that 685,000 gallons per day for the whole property, period.
okay, so 2 questions. So number 1, if we order a municipal water study, if we commission a study, do we ever get to decide that it is worthless and not provided to the public? Or does statute require that we make it available to the public and to every responsive FOIA
No,
request?
there is no, well,
There's no
I can't
statute that
answer,
the village
hold
has-
on. I don't know anything about FOIA requests and what was provided or not. No, when we do internal planning, there are times that we make decisions that may or may not be the information that's worth it or worthless.
Could the attorney provide a statement? So if we have a municipal water study that we commissioned, do we get to decide that it's worthless, not have it on our servers, and then not provide it when requested by the public?
I can't answer that part, but let me say this much, I discussed it with the administrator at the time, and.
Walter?
I said I discussed.
With Walter?
No, the village administrator at the
Oh,
time, which
Brent.
was Brent.
Okay.
And he was aware of it and understood what it was and why we had concerns about it and how it wasn't relevant. And we did have other information and a different water study that did provide us worthwhile information that we did use.
So Tony, what part of it is worthless? So if Crown is stating they need 790 gallons per minute total
No.
at their site.
No, the
They stated at the
600,
hearing, this is from an email from EEI.
I'm telling you that agreement locks it in. Jaden figured it
Correct,
out,
but they need additional water.
685,000.
So you can't provide just what they
Maximum.
asked, Tony.
Well, the one I saw said maximum, Jaden.
Tony,
So we'll double check. That's fine.
Tony, the email from EEI.
I haven't caught up
Can I-
on everything,
can I
so
finish
go
my
ahead.
sentence?
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
The email from EEI, yes, they need a smaller amount, but you know that you cannot just send the amount they need, right? You have to also send additional water to maintain the pressure. So well 8, which is over close to Crown, it has a maximum of 700 gallons per day, right? The amount that they need is more, so even if nobody else was using well 8 is not sufficient to serve that property. So now they have to take water from 10 and 11, which aren't even over there, right? And we have to send additional amounts. That is from the email at EEI that they need 790 gallons per minute, or that's what they asked.
Can we have the civil engineer who has the
Yes,
expertise to answer some of these questions if she doesn't mind?
And to go in just a few little details, there is a booster pump station that's part of the Crown system and a standpipe system that's part of the Crown system. And The deep wells that we're talking about is only one source of water. There are other sources of water, and it does not include Lake Michigan water, as somebody had said in some of the information I read. Like I said, I'm sorry, I'm behind on this information. I'm late at discussing this. Unfortunately, it happened at a very difficult time in my life for me to try to keep up with this, and it just wasn't possible.
If I understand Tony, Trustee Special, and Michelle, from what I'm understanding, is this correct? That data center study, water study, basically, I have a math degree, so put it in a math problem. The given was wrong, so therefore the result is wrong, because the given was...
The given had 2.9 million gallons over what we were already planning for.
So when you have the given in a math problem, what you're starting with is incorrect, then the result is garbage, is my understanding.
So the tier 1 says 590 gallons per minute on that study, so how is that not relevant? If you're stating the total amount Crown needs is 790.
So we're talking about the data center study, correct? And
The one done on
The in-
November 22nd.
Thank you for clarifying, that's great clarification. The inputs aren't necessarily, I'd have to look at it again, but the inputs were generally, let's do what population we're gonna do, which is what's included in the master plan, and then they said, we might have a larger water user, and we had no idea what that meant. And so we said, I'm answering the question.
I don't think you are.
I am.
Can you please let the engineer answer?
We had 2,000 gallons per minute more added to the study, is basically essentially what that second study does. That 2,000 gallons per minute is not happening. It wasn't even, the 9 PE per acre that's listed there is intended, it protected the village not only against data centers, which is, why not make it a closed loop system? It protected the village from all water use, all land use types. You could have a manufacturing facility. It was intended to protect the village.
Can you listen very carefully to my question? Tier 1 on the data center study says 500 gallons per minute, not 2,000. If the total area that Crown needs is 790, how is it not applicable?
The 790 gallons per minute, can you please tell me where you get that from? You
From
said
the
it's from
morning.
EEI, and I'm not
I
doubting it.
have the email if you would like me to show
I'm
you.
not, but this is also 40 years ago, so I'm
Totally
not,
understand. I'm
I'm
just
not
telling you
going
that
to
it's
do
just-
things on the fly.
I can read
And
it
this
to you
is,
if you want.
this is why I encouraged a civil, I really wanted to sit down and discuss, because sometimes it requires you to go back and review your calculations so you can determine how they came back to the 790 gallons per minute. I can't tell you on the fly how exactly that number came. It's just.
That's still not the question. And I am willing to sit down with you. However, when you said, I want to sit down with you, you said, I want to sit down with you so your your attorney can set the engineering standard. And I said, no, we're not doing that again, because Kathy Orr never should have set that engineering standard. We asked our HR Green, just to make sure. Like, is this correct? Does the engineering standard get set by an attorney? No.
I
HR
also
Green
offered
asked
to-
science-related questions. I'm sorry, what did you say?
I also offered to sit down with the data center memo as well.
I'm
So I
willing to
offered
have
that
a
both times.
conversation.
The data center, though, I don't see what the problem is with the data center thing. The people
It's-
who were there said the information to start with, that the data that they used to make this was
Right.
incorrect. It was grossly
Okay.
overestimated. So
Heidi.
then the data would be incorrect.
Heidi, I know you're capable of understanding this as well.
Please do not speak that way to me.
Heidi, so she's saying that it assumed 2,000 gallons per minute. If you look at that report, tier 1 is 500 gallons per minute. And both of you are like, wow, it's assuming so much more. No, it's not. 500 is actually less than 790.
You know what, President Stilwell? When you get your civil engineering degree, I will listen to you
I'm asking anyone
with
to
equal
respond.
confidence that you know more than the civil
I'm not
engineer
saying
that's
I know
there.
more, I'm asking someone to answer the question. Wow. I'm asking someone to answer the question. So if there's 3 tiers on that report, 1, 2, and 3, the first is 500, the second is 1,000, and the third is 1,000, and the difference is the number of wells. And so my point is, had this been sent to the village, it would have been included in the FOIA documents, like it is required by statute. And then people would have been asking about these additional wells because they're up to $4 million a piece. So that study indicated at 500 gallons per minute, you may need 2 wells, not just 1, but 2, at $4 million a piece. And so when you're...
Not possible.
That is what it said, Tony. And so we're having this conversation now, but the point is, it should have been available, and it was required by statute to be available, and it wasn't.
So can I explain where the 500 comes in?
Of course. That's
So
it is.
what the thought process was at the time was that, hey, not all the data centers are gonna come and be online right at one time. So they said, and we had no idea, we hadn't had a data center. Data center water use is, no one likes to talk about it, right? So we were taking best estimates or best thoughts based on, we'd had some different project meetings that aren't allowed to be disclosed for a number of reasons. But we were using information, the best available we had. So we said, put 500 gallons per minute initially. You have 1 data center.
Got it.
And then you ramp it up, and then you have 1,000 gallons per minute in
Totally
2027.
understand. Yep.
So the first few come online in 2025. Then you get a
And
little bit more
how
in
many wells did they
2027.
say are needed at that 500?
But this is, none of this data, it is not the premise of the planning. Our water system master plan assumes none of this, and in fact, what we state in there, and has stated in the memo, is that if something differs than the planning we set forth in our master plan, it totally warrants opening this up and restudying it. It definitely warrants, if the use changes, but we limited it to the 9 PE per acre. That's.
Okay, so you just said that you agreed with me that that first column was 500 gallons per minute.
I'm looking at
In this
this.
email,
What are you looking at?
correct, you just said, right, tier 1 is 500 gallons per minute.
Yes, I'm looking at that.
Right.
I just want to make sure
And so the
we're looking
number
at the same thing.
790 gallons per minute that Crown is asking for, the total number, I know they're asking to pump less per day, totally got that. But the amount of water they actually need is 790. And so even if it wasn't the 790, hold on, Tony, even if it wasn't, the 500 whatever thousand, close to 600,000 that they'll actually get, it matches tier 1 on that water study.
It's
It
an
was
additional
relevant.
500 gallons per minute
Right.
upon what we've already done. I would double check it, but I'm like 95% sure. That is in addition. We already said we're adding 9,900 population. We're getting to the 2050 CMAP. Beyond that, we have these data centers that come in. Beyond that. So that is additional, if I'm not mistaken. And I'll go back, as I said, like this is
We can
years
sit
ago.
down.
Michelle,
and I
can
can
can I ask you a
confirm that.
question?
Sure.
So, this study, is it based on a high usage data center, water usage?
100%.
Yeah.
The project is not qualified for high usage data center?
Correct.
Okay. So I
That
just-
is what I'm saying.
I know
Sean, yes.
Cal was bringing in 3 16-inch
When you guys
water
say high
lines
usage,
to
these numbers are defined.
meet
Okay.
the Meta data center out in DeKalb. So they had to bring in multiple water sources just to meet that one data center 5 years ago.
What, just curiosity, what's considered a high use, high water? Is there a threshold?
They're all over the place, and the data center water use is not disclosed easily. So you have no data centers. We work in other communities that do have data centers. I will tell you, none of them use anywhere near what you hear about. But I can't tell you what high is, because I honestly don't work in a community that I'm aware of that has one of those really no longer a closed loop system per se. So I
So
can't
most of
answer
them, most
that.
of those coastal systems that do new ones.
Yeah.
The amount of water that Crown has asked for this project, the total amount needed per Michelle is 790, which is included in that table.
Okay,
And
the
no matter what, even
annexation
if,
agreement clearly states a maximum of 9 PE per
Correct.
acre.
correct,
of
Tony, but you still have to
potable
send the
water.
additional water per
There
Michelle.
is no additional water.
You can't
This
just
is locked.
you can't just send exactly what they need, right? You have to have
Yes, you
I
additional
think,
water.
Sue, I think you
right?
do. I think you can send more because that's the most you send, I mean, it's
That's
continual.
the maximum.
It's a continual.
Okay, let's read Michelle's email, guys.
While you're looking that up,
I'm reading right from the recorded document
The
that There
calendar,
may be different
back
versions
set,
that
the
weren't the
calendar, you know?
recorded
I
document.
don't, I just heard
This may
from,
be after
their
January.
water contract.
So this, hold on one second, this is what EEI says. Based on the last needs assessment calculation that we performed as part of the Water Master Plan, the village had a surplus of 1290 GPM of supply and treatment. The Crown is anticipated to need 790 gallons of it. You'll have 500 gallons per minute left over. Now, that brings me to the next question. So since we only had 500 as of 2024, but we're having 700 and some odd units being requested from Settlers Ridge, and then we also included Brighton Ridge, how much of that do we have left? Before the IEPA says we need a new well. Are we down to roughly 200?
We'd have to get a list of all the annex properties. What our water system master plan was based on is that you were roughly between 9 and 10,000 people to begin with.
Mhm.
And the 2050, the last time we did the study, honestly, you were going to 62,000 plus people. This water study said, hey, CMAP revised their numbers, and we confirmed with community development, it's never gonna grow to that level. And it was ratcheted back to, I forget the exact number, it was between 18,000 and 19,000 people. With that, what we did in this master plan is we said in 2050, you're getting to your CMAP 2050 number, which was an additional 9,900 people. When we do that, we add on some commercial and industrial use that's based on the historical kind of uses of the village. So there is some commercial and industrial baked into that number. And we say, there's engineering calculations that are all listed out there that are they're industry standard for your supply. There's a firm capacity and a reliable source capacity kind of number that is always, most engineers, if not all engineers, will use. And that's what those calculations are based.
2.5 million from the IEPA.
So I can tell you in 2022, based on those parameters that are kind of industry standard, in 2022, you had 1,290 gallons per minute of excess. By the time you add, that's like the least common denominator, the one that would guide it. By 2050, you still have a surplus of 41 gallons per minute. You're breaking even basically come 2050 with those numbers. So if you start adding more than 9,900 people, so we'd have to calculate all the annex properties and what's anticipated, and that you can't do the PE based on the commercial and industrial, because there's some of that's baked in there. You do it based on the amount of population. Then if you have a big water user or something, that's a different story. Bring them in. We'll do the study.
But we know, okay, so we know, so if there were 790 units in Settlers Ridge, that would be another 0.2779. Brighton Ridge is already approved at the 0.1162. So if we add the full build out of what we already approved, minus if there's some extra in there included from the Crown, because you had given two different numbers, it's somewhere in the middle, then we're already close to that firm capacity. So we can sit down and discuss this and hammer it out, but it doesn't look like we can go on adding things without addressing this.
We have excess capacity in the system today.
I mean, just to put things in
Without
perspective.
Yes, we are only using 1 million
Put
today.
things in perspective, you have 4 deep wells currently, 8, 9, 10, or 11. They all, roughly speaking, they're deep wells. I'm not looking at the stats right now, but they have 1,000 gallons per minute. You have 4,000 gallons per minute. In 2022.
The max of 8 is 700.
So
That's
fine,
fine,
no
wow.
problem.
Okay.
3,700 gallons per minute. Your average day demand, just to put things in perspective, these are very conservative calculations. They're more conservative than the IEPA calculations. The actual demand of the system in 2022 was 550 gallons per minute average day.
Correct, but right
So
now.
that's 3,700 versus 550, speaking simple terms. You take your largest one out, you still have, which is a big thing, because one's gonna be out for service. 2,700 gallons per minute versus 550.
So I can ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
So Sue mentioned that if Crown, I don't know the number, let's say if Crown wants X amount, they want a million gallons, whatever it is. They want X amount, they say they want 1 million gallons for a month or whatever number they want. And she said they had to pump more than that. It doesn't make sense to me because I think, I mean, if the pipes are full of water and you send whatever they want, you can't send more than they want, right? Because
Correct.
They can't pump over the agreed amount, but Michelle from EEI had said the property needs 790 gallons per minute. So if we have a property, you know, and they get to pump, I don't know, 200 gallons a day, right? Can we only have water in the system that is exactly 200 gallons and then we can just leave the pipes empty? Or do we have to keep extra water to keep the pressure in the pipes?
So,
But they can still only pump the max.
so you fill the pipes up once and the water's sitting there and
Okay.
your system's pressurized. So it is not any more than what the community needs.
Okay, well, your
You-
email says they need 790 gallons per minute, so I'm confused
I need
because you
to,
can't
I
explain
need
your
to kind
email.
of, I need to go back, once again, is that from 2022, is that, I
That's from
need
the
to go
year.
back and I need to go back and see that, and that probably, it very well could be their demand.
Okay, thank you for acknowledging
No,
that.
let me, so,
I'll forward this to you.
I thought there was a follow-up water study, Scott, that showed our ability to supply water at different census levels, at different population levels.
That comes out to 1.1 million a
So-
day. That would be,
so,
I don't know what that would be for.
I guess, can we agree to figure out?
it's more like 475 gallons per minute. If you do, and a quick math, you do 760 acres times 9 PE, right? Wait, 760
I'm
acres.
not asking how much it
This
costs.
is, I really, I feel like there's, I'm happy to do this offline and do math
Oh,
offline
Are you
with
gonna send me another bill for $11,000 to do
Well,
this?
I think
I
that's
think part of the
unfair.
problem is that
90
you
plus
can't
emails,
grasp
90
basic concepts.
pages
No, it
plus.
says she can't explain her own email.
I certainly understood her emails. I think the problem was is that you continually asked her the same question and didn't like the answer and repeatedly harassed her and asked her over and over the same question and didn't like the answers. That's how we got the big
And
bill.
Michelle,
She
can I-
has every right to
can I ask you-
charge
can
for
I ask you a follow-up
that.
question?
But that's another topic.
if there's agreement with Crown that they can only have so much water with the property and the property needs more, and are we just saying that whatever water we need to pressurize the pipes?
The pressurization of the pipes, I feel, is totally independent. You pump the water into the pipes, that's your system. They're not using the water, they're eventually using the water in the pipe, but it's just getting replenished. They're only using the 9 PE per acre. They have meters that they can use to say how much they're using, if you would like to monitor that to make sure it's there. We had talked about it.
Okay.
But does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, that answers the question. Thank you.
But you do 760 gallons, or 760 acres, and you multiply, hold on, 760 acres, multiply 9 PE per acre, multiplied by 100 gallons per day, say it's 100 gallons per day, and then you divide by 24 hours, divide by 60 minutes, you're at 475 gallons per minute.
Okay, so I sent you your own email, so if you can kindly explain to us the 790, whenever you can, we can sit down and talk, or you can respond to the email. But yeah, I'm asking you to explain your own number. Again, like, we're standing here having to go over this, and like, if you could explain what you said, we wouldn't have to go back and forth so much.
I tried for 90-plus pages.
I didn't email you 90-plus pages. For example, some of my questions were, who did you send this to? And you responded with 33. So if you're counting your own pages.
27 of them were the emails from you, and I think I had about 2 sentences. But I'm sorry, I will refrain, I will be more professional.
I think the
Oh,
question
sorry.
of this
Go ahead, Heidi.
data
Oh.
centers is the data center study, and your concern was it wasn't presented.
Correct, that is
So
the-
I think that was answered with the 2 people who were there and who dealt with the study, Trustee Special and Michelle, that said the given was wrong, so the data was wrong. Why would you present and confuse people with wrong information?
Because you don't get to decide under state statute not to disclose a municipal water study, and the
I
fact that you don't
defer to
understand
the
this
attorney.
boggles my mind.
I defer to the attorney. If you have a study that you
Can we
know that is
withhold the municipal
incorrect,
water study that we commissioned?
if it was bad data, bad results, are you required to publish
What
that?
statute is that?
Well, here.
Then we have to provide documents
I'm asking
upon request.
the attorney who would be the
Well,
one
then
who
it's
would have the
FOIA.
expertise.
Well, it just depends, as you're stating, trustee, it depends who FOIAs. If the village is FOIA'd about water information, about previous studies, you have to send everything over. It doesn't
No,
matter if
it's
it's
not.
good data, bad data. The study could have been from 25 years ago, depending on what their request is. As far as what groups may share between one another, that's going to be between the members of those organizations and the elected officials to decide what they believe is relevant to share. So the duty will fall on the village
So,
there was a
based on
com-
a request from a trustee or the administration or from a
And as
a
we have
resident.
never received it in hard copy or email from your firm, it was left out of exactly matching FOIAs requesting
So-
water studies.
First of all, there was no intent to hide.
But it was done.
There was,
That's
no,
not why
I
the
shared
things that are
information.
given-
I'm sorry it did not end up on the server. I shared information. It was not the intent to hide. So there is probably a lot of information, I would suspect, on any municipality's server that just didn't make it there, because honestly, we do business, we do relationships, we have discussions, and that happens. And sometimes they don't end up right exactly where they're supposed to be. Not even in private practice. They don't end up where they're supposed to be. And I'm sorry that didn't happen. But it doesn't mean I or anybody else intentionally hid the information. And then the added, so I'm sorry, that didn't happen. I told you, I was very honest about it. I did not, I said, I can't find any. Did I probably discuss it? Yes. Can I remember exactly what date, what time? I'm sorry, I can't. But I'm sure it was. So and there was no intent to hide. And there is a lot of implication that it was intentional. And
Can I interrupt that, if you don't mind? There were 3 reasons that I'm asking more questions to determine the intent here. Number 1 was in the notes for you, you were stating this, in a report from CMAP that you didn't like the messaging of CMAP's report saying that the water was at risk after 2030. I can find it. if
it
you
was
want.
Walter that said that?
No.
And
No,
I
no.
followed
I have-
up asking more
I
information
have a
from
note
CMAP
that
asking.
you added to a report stating that you didn't like the
Okay,
messaging.
if
Number
you
two,
say
number two is
uh-huh.
what you brought up from Walter. Walter explicitly referred to this report and said that it had less than desirable information. So these things lead me to believe that it was not just forgotten. Number 3 was at the hearing, Crown, who paid for this study, you, who was well aware of this study, and I know you were because you sent it to me in 2025, and the village, not one person spoke up and said, hey, this study exists, after hour upon hour, day upon day, of residents stating their concerns about the water in the data center. Not one of you said, hey, We actually have a study that studied this and made it publicly available. So I question, well, I'm almost done. I question the intent, and it's reasonable that I'm asking these questions, given that totality of the information. Go ahead.
Why would anybody say, hey, we've got a useless study with useless data? Why would they do that?
You're stating that it's useless, however, again, she had said there was 790 gallons per minute needed, and it falls right within those tiers. And not only that, do you mind if I have this study for just a moment?
You should have it in your packet.
Well, all right, let me sit here and go through the packet since you can't. Let me use that.
Meanwhile, when she's going through the packet.
Is there? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Michelle. You've been a great partner with the village for all these years, and I hold you and your company in the highest regard. So I apologize that I just told this other trustee how embarrassing this is to even have to go through this, and I'm embarrassed. So, but that's first most. Secondly, I know I've been reading some things about the Lake Michigan water coming online with the surrounding communities, which will then produce additional water to aquifers over the years to come, because they're not drawing from that. Was this original study, was any of that taken into account, do you know?
So what we did, with both studies, what we did was we knew Joliet, Yorkville, Montgomery, Oswego were all considering and, thought they were heading in that direction. So we did different scenarios based on those. We also, we had met with City of Aurora to explore different alternatives there if it ended up having that, like if something told us we needed to go there. But what the general results told us of the March study was that you're not going to have inoperable wells until probably 2070. So we said there's so much change, so much evolving with the aquifers that you use, and you're doing okay now. It's a significant expense. I mean, you see millions, billions of dollars being spent. I mean, it is significant on the ratepayers. We thought it was prudent after discussions with Village that we wait, monitor every 5 to 10 years. We knew Joliet's one of the biggest ones. At least wait till they get on, and then let's do this state water survey again. That was always the intent. Let's see where they're at.
Okay. Thank you. And I don't find at any time that I read through all those emails back and forth on all those emails, and I don't think at any time was there any intent to do anything bad to this village, and I don't believe that your intent was ever to overcharge this village as is being portrayed tonight by any means. Actually, there's some emails that are purposely CC'd to our attorney, so we're not able to share them. I think that's more of an intent to avoid the FOIA asks and things like that. So I don't foresee. I should say I don't see at any of those emails that you guys are doing anything wrong. So
if it was intentional, if it was intentional to withhold this data center study, that would be even more than negligence. But if you simply forget to deliver a hard copy or an email to a village, that in fact is negligence, and that is why I say our taxpayers should not have to pay, even if you didn't intend it, our taxpayers shouldn't have to pay for like 33-page defenses of it.
So President
Trustee London.
Can you yield your time to me real quick?
Sure.
All right, just real quick. If there was such a big issue and we don't trust the EEI so much, then why didn't you say anything about this PSA with EEI from Maple Street when it just came up?
I don't understand the question. What was it?
I guess I'm confused because you don't trust her. You're saying she's holding all this info. This is a bad company. But yet we just approved the PSA with EEI from Maple Street. But you didn't have, why wasn't any of this brought up? Why didn't we hold off on
thought about
that?
it. Like, do I think that we need another engineering foreman to go out to bid? Yes, I do. Do I want to delay this current project while we, figure that out? No, I don't. It's usually they're very skilled. Like many of their projects have been entirely successful. I'm not saying by any means that they're always negligent. It's this specific project that has all of these problems. And so do I think we need another engineering firm because this is mildly toxic? Yes, I do, but I don't think there's support to hold up that particular project for it.
I don't see where you're coming from with it. I would, if you're calling.
I mean, do you want to? Do you want to go out to bid and use a different firm? Because I'm open to it.
Well, this is not the time to talk about that.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm concerned with.
that answers my
I'm just concerned with if they're so negligent, then I wish you would have said something earlier about the PSA. I didn't realize that we felt so different about EEI. I didn't realize that there was such a strong toxic, as you say, relationship with EEI with this. I know that there's some confusion, but I didn't realize it was this bad.
I think with all
So,
the years.
thank you, Nora, for
Oh,
giving
sorry.
time to me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nora, you can.
Okay, so this discussion is going around in circles, and I want to mirror the other trustees that I think that we need to be able to trust in a registered, licensed engineer who does this type of work. In all engineering work, when the parameters change, there's, you need to go back and update what you've got for information. I deal with that on a daily basis in my day job. But with all this discussion around, there's points on both sides. I would like to make a motion that we put together a small committee and go through this and figure out where we need to go. I think when we look at a data center that hasn't actually occurred, we need to do a study at the time where we are on the cusp of having to deal with this. So I'd like to make a motion to set up a small committee to look over all the facts and details and then come back and state where we are and what we think we should go.
Would that
In that
involve?
order, I would say, I'd like to know what the issue is, because I've heard a lot of numbers thrown around, and I guess I'm not clear what the real issue is. Was
The
it
issue-
report held? Is it,
The issue
we're
is
gonna
that
run out of water?
We appear to be in need of well 12 and don't have $4 million for it, and it wasn't just.
And we don't. We just, we
Okay, so-
have
The
excess.
disclosure part, I think,
Excess
should stop.
water.
That, it's
don't
Can
need
we-
a well.
just talk to the well issue, that's the.
Would you mind please answering clearly so that we can bring it back to the board? Exactly how much, originally in
Point of
2022,
order.
we had 500 gallons per
Point of
minute.
order is being called.
I made a proposal for something and it was completely ignored. I made a motion and I'm asking. if
Who are you asking for a committee of? Like-
I'm asking for a water supply study committee to be set up so that we can get all this material and facts together and discuss it in a committee and come up with a reasonable conclusion rather than continuing to discuss this thing in circles.
So I think that we, as the village board, are that committee, and that's why
No.
I'm trying to narrow down the question. We don't have, like, random.
No, we pick a few people and we set up a committee and we take the details and we go through this and look at it, and then we come back to the board with those findings, and that's what you do with a committee.
But that's our job to look at these.
Yeah, I think it needs to go to staff, and staff needs to, I guess, understand the question and provide whatever relevant water studies, because I know there's a different water study out there that showed what our excess capacity was up to a certain population, and it was used after, it was presented after our comprehensive plan was updated with CMAP.
I'm gonna ask Scott to please send this email to the entire board, but as of the hearing, and in response to your question, it was said there were 500 gallons per minute remaining. So if EEI could please narrow it down and give us the exact amount that we can still develop prior to that IEPA firm capacity. Is that a reasonable question?
I don't understand. Is the question basically, do we need a new well and when will we need a new
No.
well?
So,
I mean, is that what it boils down to?
That's what it
Let's-
seems like.
if I
That's
can,
what it seems to boil down to.
Because
Do we need a new
there's a lot
well
of
and
parts,
when do
there's
we
a lot of
need
moving
it?
pieces here because
Correct.
things are
So-
still to be
So,
developed.
I have an expert here who worked for Public Works for a very long time. Do we need a new well right now?
No.
I'm
Can we,
asking,
and so, do you think we need a new well right now, trustee Special? Hate to put you
No.
on the. No. I have two experts, they're telling me no. You are not an expert in this, so I'm not taking you saying yes.
Listen.
So if the answer is no, we don't need one now, then the question would be, when do we need one, correct?
correct.
Then, has there been a study to say what conditions are gonna be required and when would we need one? Was that the 2050?
Correct, right?
Twenty-
Well, we're equating
Depending
it to years.
Growth.
It's
Yeah,
really
right.
how the growth happens. We
Okay.
just kind of, so we said 9,900 people.
Okay.
And you can
so we
look
know-
at the exact water
we know
use
when.
in our study is when it needs to happen. We can put it,
So when we double our population about,
Yes.
so that's when we need a new well. There's your answer.
No, there's not my answer. So if you could please, like, let me ask this question very clearly, okay? In the hearing, right, so the IEPA says your village with these wells can pump up to 2.5 million gallons. Is that correct?
And what
Probably.
hearing,
Hold on one second,
what
please.
hearing
please.
are you talking about?
Please, hold on. Michelle, is that correct?
my guess is, and I'd have to look at the exact numbers of the wells, but it might even be more than that. I'm thinking 1,000 gallons per minute.
Okay,
It's about 1.4 million a day if I,
1.5 for.
what, 1,
1.5 for 8 and 1.5 for 9.
so,
And 2.3 for, well, 10 or 11.
okay.
And that's.
so that's a total of
And
5.3
Let's not forget, we have
million?
2.7 million of storage on site.
Yeah,
Okay,
We can't forget that.
yes.
okay. So my question is, can you, for us, give us the exact amount? So with everything that we have built out, right? The exact amount that we can still do before we reach our
Isn't 9,900, she said? Isn't that double though?
Yeah.
You're adding 9,900 people.
That's,
I think what you need to do is work through your administrator for a lot
Yeah.
of this
Can
stuff.
I,
I mean, it
I've been
seems to
lis-
be he's not included in
Yeah,
any
I-
of this review, and I think that's why we hire an administrator.
So the question I have, and maybe I could work, if the group would like me to work with Michelle on this, my assessment of what a good answer, or at least to get back to the board is, our daily usage plus all of the, what's been agreed to in annexation agreements or platted in a development agreement for Lennar, 5 and 6 from Settlers, which is approved, and then the 9 PE per acre for the Crown development. All of that added together with our daily usage and then look to have that number, and then also have the number of what our maximum that we can use. I think the IEPA number is like whatever your total is plus minus one of your biggest well being offline. Is that correct? Generally, how it works. I'm not quoting numbers, but that's my understanding of the IEPA limit.
reference, she's.
But I think that's what it has in the water report. Is
And
it's
how much room we
basically
have left, yeah.
you take out you take out your biggest well.
That's
And that's
for
generally what
capacity,
the-
which is
yeah,
generally
for
what we
capacity.
did
So
with.
can you get us
alternate-
that, and then we'll,
Well,
So I'll report that
I
back.
think I needed some additional information to work through
Yeah.
what's actually platted and what's assumed, what's the density, what's gonna be there, so.
Yeah, there's some other speculative, because we are getting questions, and development begets development, as Michael would always tell me. So we're getting calls, so it's important to know this is what is gonna happen because we've approved this. These other items are speculative things in the future. How many speculative things can we do before we bump into like, hey, we're gonna maybe need a well? And that, I think if we can gather that information and get it to you, and then use the 2024 report as a basis with all the numbers that are in it to get us an answer, is that reasonable?
And connection fees, I'm just gonna add in terms of additional well, connection fees are typically utilized to pay for those next improvements, so it's not on the pay, it's not on the backs of the.
Current rate payer, which is what pays for the water, not taxes. And
Correct.
I think you made a
don't
good
have an extra
point
4
that
million.
Karen isn't here. I think we need to have her pull some
Yeah.
of that information out
Okay.
of annexation agreements of the money that should be earmarked if we need extension?
We can pull from the development agreement from Lennar, we can pull what
Crown.
so right now Settlers is paying our standard rate because their annexation agreement has expired for the areas 5 and 6 that are platted. And then we can pull the number for Crown for both the contributions for general and water capital. If I may, there's 2 other things that were brought up that I haven't had a chance to address yet. One, Trustee Michaels, you had asked about the future and I believe we were referring to the 2024 water study that was presented. Michelle had done a presentation to the village board. I think that's what you're talking about when we're talking about population and our growth over time and what we'd be able to serve. And that's in that 2024 water study. I sent that out. I can send a link to it again. It's quite large. And Michelle had done a presentation on that, if the board would like. With this new information, she could come back, we could talk about where our study's at and like where our amount's at and present that and have a refresher on it if that would work. And then I believe there's also a question about some discussion about what's happening in DeKalb. DeKalb's data centers are built by Meta. I've had the opportunity to tour them. I've also had the opportunity to discuss that with both the mayor and the administrator from DeKalb. Those use evaporative cooling, which is no longer the industry standard. And also, it is not something that would be able to be done underneath the 9 PE per acre cap that we put on the Crown development specifically. Evaporative cooling, the way that evaporative cooling works is a very, very intense water use. So they essentially blow cold air behind the servers that is cooled by using water, and the water evaporates. So it never hits the sewer. It only ever is seen at the meter because it evaporates. And they'll also open the buildings in the winter to let the cold air in. But that's the method that's used on the metadata center. It's also used somewhat in AI data centers. But again, with the water allowance that we have, they would not be able to build AI data centers. And they don't really build them in Illinois anyway because of different BIPA laws. That's a different situation entirely. But if it were to be like a modern CyrusOne type data center, they would use most likely a closed loop cooling system. And those are filled once, and then they recycle the water and cool it, so the water use would fit under the 9 PE per acre cap in that instance. And there are typically agreements that are coming out in modern agreements with data centers. Ours is already completely done, but the newer ones, like I've discussed it with Yorkville, like what are you doing with your agreements with data centers? They're actually restricting them to water use that's lower than what a typical subdivision is, because the newer systems use more electricity for their cooling and less water. And that's been in a large response to the water needs and that can happen. And also, technology and innovation is often driven by necessity. And if you want to build data centers, which they are in Texas and in Arizona, you can't use water. There's no water for people. So they're having to drive the innovation to do that. So the data center water use has drastically come down in the future. And there are other uses, food production and different industrial uses that actually end up using more water. So from the research that I've done, to answer that question, the Meta one, when it was built, was the old style of we use a ton of water. The modern day ones are not. Unless it's an AI one, it's not typically to that scale of one. Thank you.
If I may, could I just add one kind of fact too, that I feel like was a lot of information around the private wells, and we're drilling these big wells. I just want to be very clear that the village's 4 primary wells are like 1,000+ feet deep. They are cased down to that point, so they are not influencing any of the private wells. The private wells are probably at best 100 to 200 feet. There is the Maquoketa Shale, which is an impermeable layer as well that separates all the private wells from the wells we're using as a village. So I say that because social media is out there, and if I can calm anybody's fears that just moved to town, I would like to do that. So I just wanted to get that on record.
They've been dewatering 500,000 gallons per day for the last few months, and we actually have complaints that their water pressure.
No, this is related to the data center. Right? That's a whole different issue.
Okay.
Our wells, not yet.
I'm just saying I do have
Right. I think you need to make him work more.
I
You're
don't appreciate when
overworking
people say, you
yourself.
know what, why don't you stop asking questions and
I
ask
didn't
this
say that.
man right here, he can just take care of that for you. No, I will ask whatever questions I want to ask.
I'm not saying not to ask questions. I think Scott is our administrator.
I
He has a job.
understand he's the administrator, I understand.
Well,
But
he
he
has
was
a job.
also here when we got into some of these problems, and when we were assured that we did not need him well, and now we're standing here addressing it.
Now you
So
answered my question. You don't trust him.
No. To Nora's point, wanting to get some kind of community involvement with engineers leading the study, is that what you were thinking, Nora?
Yeah, and, people from our administrative, but, what we've just discussed with having our administrator run point and collect all the data, it would be fine too, but I think we've discussed this as far as it can go for this evening, because we keep coming back in the same darn circles. And until we have more data and have it in a, something that does not look like maps, and just give it a finite, this is what we got, this is what we need, this is what the future plan is, then we can make some, reasonable decisions and projections, rather than continuing to harp on the fact that, data was missing or out of date. Let's just move forward. That's my
So
point.
I would think something like that might be good, as long as we include professionals in there that, to read
Exactly.
it, that would dispel a lot of the disinformation that was presented at the JRB, and
There was
a lot of,
Are we all on the same page that Scott, yes,
There was a pending motion, so I want to make sure that either your honor determines that the motion is out of order, or that you want to have a second on the motion.
I think
and
it's-
to create.
If I may,
This is what I'm saying, that there's.
So she has to,
I think it's out of order,
Or she wants
because
to
I
withdraw.
don't think we can ask other people to do our job here, and I think that we are very close to summarizing it. I think we are all on the same page. If Nora could confirm, I think that we have Scott provide Michelle every single thing that we have already approved with the number of units, and then Michelle comes back to us with, this is how close you are to your firm capacity. Are we all on that same page?
Yes.
Okay.
And then just have an informational
Yes.
point from Village Code, under appointments, unless otherwise specified by law or ordinance, the mode of appointment for any appointed position, including but not limited to appointments for committees and subcommittees of the village, and for committees established by other entities to which the village is entitled to appoint a member, shall be by the president, subject to the advice and consent of the board. So this would need to be, if a subcommittee was created, it would need to be by the president with advice and consent of the board. So I don't believe, and the attorney can correct me, that the motion can be made on the floor by a trustee. This would need to come from the village president according to.
I withdraw that then, but what I think is reasonable is for you, as the administrator, to collect all the data and work with the engineers, and then present that data at a later date. And then if you want, you can pull in any other board members if you have questions and such, but I just don't see that anything other than getting that done is going to cause anything more than talking in circles.
I'm in agreement, that is what I'm asking for. So Scott gets all the data for everything we approve, sends it to Michelle. You come back to us with a presentation, if you will, and how close we are to that firm capacity. All agree? Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, thank you. Moving on, we have the August 13th, 2026 special JRB meeting. We've discussed a lot of it. Part of that meeting was disclosing what had happened with hiding the study, so it is public now. Since then, there's
Did
been...
you just say hiding the study?
It wasn't,
Yeah.
so we had exactly matching FOIAs requesting the water study. It wasn't sent. So I don't know however I phrased it, but...
Who answers
what-
our FOIAs?
Who answered them back in 2022 to 2024? I have no
Yeah.
idea. Allison?
Okay, so Allison didn't send,
Because it
Allison
didn't
didn't send the
exist on the
FOIA,
server.
so Allison would be the person
Point
that was
of order?
hiding it.
No, because it didn't exist on the survey, yes.
Point of order, I'd like the parliamentarian to go over, I don't believe it was made a motion to discuss the JRB.
Nope, we can just discuss it. It's an agenda item. We're not taking a vote.
That's correct.
Okay.
So yeah, part of it was disclosure. The second part of the GRB was that second part of the state statute no engineer has signed off on. Since then, I have asked for Crown or Sugar Grove LLC to provide us with an engineer statement saying it does meet the second part of the state statute. Is everyone
So I have a question. You
Yes.
mentioned in there about there not being a pre-construction evaluation of the water. So what you need is how much water was being, causing the flooding of the, with the watershed. And what you need to know is how much is it going to be now, correct? With the development.
I don't fully understand the question.
Did it improve it? The question is, did
Okay,
it
yeah.
improve it?
Yeah.
So, did you look at the Kimley Horn drainage report?
Yes, and
That
so.
was the 2025 one?
So, in Kimley Horn's drainage report, I looked at the 2023, does Kimley Horn,
The 2025, it's the second item on our website.
does it say it alleviates any part of the downstream flooding?
Can I ask our village engineer to interpret some of the information on this? My unengineering brain read through this. It had the flow rates of before, the flow rates after, and I just used my third grade math as one is greater than the other. That would imply that it would be an improvement, but I'm not an engineer, so I wanted to get an interpretation from our engineer on this.
So, I believe the approved, for Area 1, the approved drainage report, just for record, is January 6, 2026.
Okay.
I think the website is only updated through like September, I think,
Yeah.
with some of the documents, but the general idea is there. So a HydroCAD model was utilized by Kimley Horn, and they did a pre-development. This is how much water is being released at the rate, how much water is being released. And then they put in all the impervious area, the new development, and then they run the calc, and they say, this is what the release rate is at that point. And it was generally about 15% less. It was just under 15% less in the second, or in the post-development as it
Okay.
was modeled.
So they should have no problem saying then that this alleviates all or part of the downstream flooding, and that's all I'm asking for, is a statement from them saying that.
It's there.
Oh.
You just need to read the report.
It- Does it
This is greater than
specifically-
this.
No,
you
no,
know?
no, because they certified, what Kimley Horn certified was that it will not make the downstream flooding worse. I don't have the exact words. I'm looking for them to state the exact words, this alleviates all or part of the downstream.
Because part two says they have to do it after the fact and show it actually meets it, right?
Correct.
Just speaking from a engineering standpoint, when we do engineering reviews, if we made every engineer do that, we don't. I understand the TIF, right? But engineering is separate than the TIF reimbursement. So I just like to state that if we ask Crown to do that in the engineering review, you're holding them to a different standard than what we're holding to anybody else. So I just want to make that like clarification, and
I just need
I
an
take
engineer to
direct-
tell me that it alleviates all or part of the downstream
But they're
flooding.
not-
I don't have them.
I think for what do? I abide by ordinances, and I abide by the agreement, the annexation agreement. So what I'm struggling with is providing that statement, and I'm not saying it's not even true, but it is what is required. We're putting another stipulation on a developer that no other developer is required for engineering approval. I'm not saying for the TIF they don't need to do it. I'm just making the distinction why it's hard for me to, I just want to
That
know
makes-
that's the direction of the full board.
That
I
makes
just
sense,
want to
but we
know.
do have to evaluate the TIF, so here we.
Well, I mean, it would be on Crown to say that it does alleviate, maybe
It is
Crown
the
the,
engineer.
and
But that's
so
why I asked
I-
Crown to have Kimley Horn.
if their engineer won't do it, maybe Crown themselves will do it because they have the backup data that shows
No,
that
Crown
one
doesn't get
is,
to answer engineering questions, engineers do.
it's Crown,
Well, yeah, who else would do it? I mean,
it,
sorry, Heidi.
yeah, no, I'm just saying, The data is there, it's right there, in front of our faces.
Yeah.
But if
That
not
it does
engineers, we
improve it.
can't interpret that, we need the engineer to say,
They're not going, I would not expect,
well, that's what we need.
Michelle, I know you're different, I know you're different standards, but only an engineer can tell you if it makes it better, right? I mean,
Mhm. And in this case, it does. I mean, it generally does. This is reviewed based on Kane County Stormwater Ordinance, which is, I can affirmatively say it does for the 24-hour, 100-year storm. They have provided that in the report.
But that's the problem, and I know, we had discussed this, but it only had flooded 3 times in recorded history, 4 now, it's 2026, all of which were greater than that. So that's why we need that statement from an engineer to state,
no.
if this alleviates all or part of the downstream flooding. When did the flooding occur? When it was more than that. So some engineer has to give us the statement saying it alleviates all or part of the downstream flooding, not that it complies with the King County Stormwater Ordinance, but that it actually does what the statute requires.
I would also like to say, just to kind of further state, Kane County, they did their own model of the watershed, et cetera, and they modeled a 100-year, 24-hour storm. This information is very different than the floodplain, so just get that out there. This is all modeled information, but there clearly is shown inundation of flooding, and I'm happy to give you this if it's
No,
helpful.
we just need a
I'm
statement
just
from an engineer,
saying.
that's all we needed. That's what I requested from Kimley Horn. So, is there any?
And what's the purpose of this statement?
So we have to meet 2 parts of the state statute. I'm sorry you weren't there. We have to meet 2 parts of the state statute. Not only does it contribute to flooding in the watershed, but it also has the work, the engineering has to contribute to alleviating all or part of the downstream flooding. So when our TIF consultant, SB Friedman, gave the village board all the documents, in their 2018 handbook or whatever it was, they had the full statute. In ours, they took out the second part of the state statute and added a disclaimer. We don't, certify anything that happened after July, 2023. So they didn't address that part of the state statute. EEI has had a disclaimer on all their items except for the most recent engineering that they do not certify this as it meets the requirements of the TIF. And so we have nobody, not SB Friedman, not EEI, not Kimley Horn. Kimley Horn put on their engineering only that it will not make downstream flooding worse.
No, no, they stated that it is less with the development than without the development.
Could you read the line that you're referring to? Where does it say?
It's the numbers.
No. We cannot interpret numbers in conjunction. No.
Wait. You're saying you can't interpret it? We cannot interpret numbers?
We can't take their engineering and turn that into a statement from them saying it will alleviate all or part of the downstream flooding.
Shut up.
They need a statement.
It is greater than or equal to. I mean, it's the flooding was greater. There's this number is bigger than this number.
No.
Now, if you're asking if Kimley Horn will go ahead and say, yes, this number is greater than this number, therefore it hasn't, improved it, you can ask them for that.
I'd also like to state why I put the disclaimer on the letter. I think that's really important. We were doing final engineering review. I'd like to make the distinction between final engineering review and TIF reimbursement. So final engineering review, I reviewed against the annexation agreement and ordinances. So that includes the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance. This definitely follows the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance. I have no doubt beyond that. My kind of gray area and why I put that in there was there was a lot of questioning about will it alleviate or it's supposed to basically alleviate all flooding. It's kind of what I felt like was the line of questioning. And it really gets to what storm event? Is it a 24-hour storm? Is it I at one point I think it was the storm events we just had. Well, how can I ever replicate the back-to-back storms? Every storm is so unique. tell me if there's a different metric than Kane County Stormwater Ordinance that we should meet. I will take that disclaimer off.
Does it
But I need to know that you're in agreement that that's the standard, because I believe that's what the annexation agreement ties you to, but I'm not an attorney, so I'm going to defer to the attorney on that one.
Attorneys don't
Can you
determine
explain
the
the Kane County storm ordinance? Like what exactly is that compared to what Sue's talking about? Like what's the difference? Like,
So the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance, the whole intent, if you look at like the purpose and that sort of thing, one of them is to minimize flooding impacts downstream. I mean, that's one of the goals, first of all. Generally, how it does that in a very, very brief way is it says you have to put detention in, and the water, you want to force the water to infiltrate, and you want to detain some of that water on site before it's released. So you reduce how much the flow of water is going off. It's not necessarily reducing the flow, but it's reducing the flow through time, or it's reducing the rate of the flow. So you get that really bad storm, it's gonna just rush off the site, right? And you saw that. It would have rushed off more because you also had a restrictor, it's called a restrictor in the detention pond, that obviously it was greater than the design storm that happened. So it was slowly trickling off what was in the detention basin at a lower rate. It just was too much water. There was one of the smaller events was a 500+ year storm. No one designs to a 500+ year storm, no one. So it was too much for that basin, plus there was construction happening. The systems are not fully in place. It's different than the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance. They pick a 24-hour flow and they say, what's the 1% chance that storm will happen? And there's rainfall data that goes along with it.
so was there measurements before they start construction is there comparisons?
So we do stormwater modeling. We didn't do it, Kinley Horn did, because they're the design engineer. And honestly, I mean, I could get into specific.
My other question is there, like, how you said there's data that shows?
Yes, there is, pre and post, based on modeling. This is what it would have been, this is what that release rate would have been after. And that included, they were a little more restrictive with the Merrill Road culvert. They actually went to the critical duration storm for the 100 years. So they didn't just look at a 24-hour storm. They looked at all the different types of storms that you can have for 100 year. And they took that for the Merrill Road culvert to make sure it was
If they are willing to
less.
certify that it alleviates all or part of the downstream flooding, that is all we need. And so we
That's
have
all you-
asked them, we're waiting for their
So you just need
response.
something that says that based on the study, it went from this number to this number, you can see it alleviates some.
Correct, because so far they've only certified that it will not make existing.
Because
flooding
if
worse.
the numbers show it, then you have your
Yeah,
answer.
but HR Green says that in order to determine if something alleviates all or part of the flooding, you need to know in what conditions it happened, and several other questions, studies that were done for the Montgomery tip, but not done for ours. So HR Green basically indicated that we don't have enough information, they'd actually have to do the study. If Kinley Horn is willing to just certify it, then that's fine, but we have to wait for Kinley Horn's response.
And I would just like to add too, you have downstream properties that the outfall leads to the Forest Preserve District. It's unincorporated land. The way the Kane County Stormwater Ordinance reads is you actually have to send that to the county to have that review, to make sure there's no downstream impacts. So if you have any questions or doubts about what we have done, I assure you, county has done their job as well, and they signed off on it. So.
You did excellent work making it match what the county stormwater ordinance required, but you had made suggestions that could have actually improved the work. You made the suggestions and you allowed an attorney to tell you they were arbitrary. And so the fact that the attorney set the engineering standard and the attorney told you that your engineering suggestions were arbitrary, and this is from your information, That is my problem, because attorneys cannot set engineering standards. That
We
attorney
offered
never-
suggestions. It didn't mean the King County Stormwater Ordinance didn't meet it. We offered more restrictive suggestions, and that would have been a policy decision if you
Okay.
wanted to.
We
The
don't need
King
to
County
argue.
Ordinance
We don't need to
did the
argue.
job.
Kimley Horn can provide the statement or not. We'll wait for the response. Is there any other discussion?
Oh, is there gonna be a follow-up JRB meeting?
So I don't know. So I mean, we have gone since then and told them that in order to
Told who?
Crown, that in order to sign off on the engineering, in order to sign off on that plat, we need some engineer to certify this meets this, or give a statement that this meets the second part of the state statute. So on the village end, we are handling it. I don't know, does the village boards feel like you need a recommendation for the JRB, or is?
I
we
thought
can
you
just-
already said it at the JRB meeting, you set a date for the next.
Yeah, we did,
September
but since
2nd.
then, we stated, I mean, it's fine, and they're willing to come, but since then, we've also stated, we are going to require the statement from an engineer in order to sign off on.
You're stating that you're requiring that.
Correct.
You
I am the
as
first
village
president.
president, or you as
Yes,
a part
because
of the JRB?
I'm signing the plat as village president.
Can I ask the attorney a question? Would it be defensible under the state statute for TIF for us to accept that it does meet the requirement of improvement by the simple fact of the data, that it's decreased the flow by 15%?
I think that's a question for all the board members have to determine if it's in compliance. And so that's where you have different members, they're going to have different beliefs if that's going to qualify. It's going to be it's the village's position, is whatever the village wants to offer as proof that it's meeting the TIF agreement.
I personally don't understand it. I mean, you're saying one thing, Sue's saying a different thing. I'd like some professionals say, whether engineer or somebody else. Because, the problem is, we're paying this money out, and someone comes back to us and says, hey, this shouldn't have paid out because it's not qualified. The village could be sued. So I want to make darn sure that, we cover, make sure it's right.
Well, the problem is the TIF statute is so vague with how much the improvement.
You're right. It just could be this much, but someone has to say it. Someone has to, and I'm not a professional.
Yeah, right, and we have Kimley Horn who said, that it's approximately 15% reduction, but you need the actual words written down, it reduces it, or it improves it.
That's not unreasonable.
I feel better personally.
That's fine. See if Kimley Horn will make that.
Next, unless there's any other discussion, next item for discussion, future village hall.
I'll make the motion to table it.
Second.
If we can have roll call, please, Tracy.
Wait, just quick, did you want it at a specific future meeting, or if it's tabled, it's just, I just want clarification.
I want it tabled, and then if the president feels necessary, she can put it back on another one.
Thank you.
If we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Bonnie?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee London?
Aye.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the future village hall discussion is tabled. Next item of discussion, the Illinois Energy Conservation Code and Appendix CC. And Danny Marion will present this item.
Okay, so as part of the data center discussions that the board recently has had, the discussion of bringing back the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code and adopting that with Appendix CC, which is the zero energy commercial building provisions, was expressed interest, the board expressed interest in bringing that back for adoption. So I brought that back for discussion about adopting the Illinois Energy Conservation Code. Currently, the state has adopted the 2024 IECC, and the village is required by state statute to always be enforcing the most current one that the state adopts. So we need to formally adopt the 2024 IECC, and with that, I am proposing to also adopt the Appendix CC, which is the zero energy commercial building provisions that would require any commercial buildings to have an alternative form of energy, such as wind or solar. And the way it's written, it can be either on-site or off-site. The board discussed adopting Appendix CC, but then only applying it to data centers. This would in fact require any data center that comes into the village to have to follow this IECC code, whether it is in an approved PUD or not, or PDD. So you have before you my proposed Exhibit A, which is the exact text amendment that would adopt that. And I'm looking for discussion and direction on next steps from the board.
I think we need to update the IECC up to the 2024 code, but I'm not in favor of mandating Appendix CC. I think we're going to be driving most commercial development away. Companies can do
I
this.
would like to clarify that my text amendment is proposing only applying Appendix CC to data center uses. Strictly.
Fine if we do not apply it to them, but a company could come in and propose conforming to that as part of goodwill. It's burdensome as it is.
It's just for data centers. I don't think if a company comes in with another commercial building, I don't think they're going to do this if they don't have to.
We had previously discussed this, and the majority of the board was in favor of applying this to data centers. Are the other trustees still in favor of applying
I'm in
to
favor
data
of it for data centers.
I'm the one who brought it up, so I am in favor of it. Just also so you know, if we decide to change, we normally cannot change the energy code unless we make something more stringent. So if we find that this isn't enough or something like that, if we make something more stringent, we can do that as a board. We have that leeway.
Yep.
Yeah, they have to do a prescriptive, and if they don't want to meet the state, they have to prove that they save more energy than what the state's requiring. So that's an alternative that anybody has the ability to do.
One of our residents.
Can I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
So a data center comes in, and if there's enough capacity on the line and ComEd says we have the capacity to do it, they could tap into the line? Or are you saying we're going to require them to put an SMR, small modular reactor in? Because that's now what's really going with the data centers, or battery storage. Are we requiring them to put in a SMR? Instead of, if ComEd has capacity available and says, yeah, we can interconnect you. That's why I was going to say the option would be, it may be more and more expensive to even go to ComEd than put in a small modular reactor. But then you're looking at other compliance issues you may want to look at.
From my understanding, it's just some sort of alternative energy, and if they are unable to do it, they can purchase.
Yes, they can purchase. So this would require them to do some kind of alternative energy no matter what. I believe the board, the attorneys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the board could waive them if there is space with ComEd for them to connect directly to ComEd. And I believe that's something that the board could probably waive in the development agreement that we would potentially require, but this would require them to do it no matter what.
Because I just got them building a 150 megawatt solar farm, and it's for Microsoft. And they're taking all the station outputs. So is that kind of the same thing as if you have agreement with another company that has a solar farm, that we can take all their data output, that would meet the intent of this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless they provide some on site, Jim, they could put solar on the roof or on the property to offset some of it, but whatever they don't, if they were to buy power from ComEd, they would need to have some type of grid offset.
Okay, because currently right now with solar, you need about 5 acres for 2.5 megawatts. So that's a pretty big footprint as far as that goes. But if you're going to give them the option, if you're not requiring them to put a SMR in place, that's all I just want to clarify.
Thank you. Is anyone else opposed to this?
I'm with trustee Michaels. I don't think it's needed at this time.
Okay.
And I don't think it's needed at this time.
You were in support of this the last time you changed your mind.
Yeah, but after hearing it again, I don't think I can support it now.
Trustee Linden?
I prefer to be current on all the codes.
Okay. So, and then, okay, so 3-3. So yeah, then please bring it back.
Yeah, under general business.
Okay. All right. Up next, we have staff reports. Chief Allen.
So, those that have driven off of,
Chief, can you come to the mic so we can turn the recording, please? Thank you.
Good evening. The Illinois Department of Transportation is doing bridge repair work over 47. So US 30, 56 where it merges. There's some beams that need to be replaced. So that work started yesterday. So one eastbound lane of 30 into 56 has been restricted to protect the workers and for them to work on the bridge itself. During the day, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 4:30, one northbound lane is being restricted so that they can work underneath it as well. It's going to be about a month for this work to take place, for them to complete it. At a future date, the Illinois Department of Transportation is going to notify us that all northbound lanes of 47 will be closed, will have to be rerouted to get when they start lifting the beams into place. So I'm not sure how long that's going to be, in a day or a couple of days, but we'll try to provide updates. We pushed Facebook post on this earlier today. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. So if you have any other answer any other questions that you may have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Village Administrator Scott Keppel.
So my report's in your packet, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Danny Marion.
I have nothing to add.
Brad Merkel.
Just wanted to update you on our 3 KCOM projects. They're starting Monday on Merrill, so that's great news. That's Builders Asphalt doing that, and the deconstructions will start on Dugan and Wheeler on the 26th, the Wednesday. So,
Do you know how long those projects are expected to take, especially at 47?
yeah, it's probably going to take a while. Yeah,
But
I'm thinking probably a couple of 3 weeks-ish.
Okay.
But I mean, there's a time limit on these projects too through IDOT, so that's what we're working with. So,
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's coinciding with shutting down part of 47.
I know.
People might take alternate routes.
yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Trustee Whitley.
I was just going to say on that subject, just make sure our website stays up to date. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, right, but okay.
As far as Bliss Woods, there's Bliss Woods workday scheduled for this coming Saturday at 8 a.m. They're only going to work till 10 a.m. If anyone's interested in staying an extra 45 minutes, Mario will be giving an introduction on how to identify trees. I attended the JRB meeting, and I have to say, I was appalled, but sadly not surprised to see the village president call into question the integrity of and expertise of our village engineer, EEI. I fully support EEI, and they have my full confidence. And if EEI has anything further to say, they're welcome to defend themselves. That's fine.
I
I would just like to reiterate how long we have worked for the village, and we appreciate that partnership, and again, just remind you how long we've been in the village of Sugar Grove. One thing that did come up part of that discussion was the disclaimer that Michelle had added to the review letters. The review letters for final engineering. The reason why she had the disclaimer on there was to just simply state that there was approval for the final engineering. The approval did not relate to reimbursement for the TIF. To make it very clear that the village was not providing that amount of approval. The first several review letters, it was on there. At the request of the village president to remove that statement from the review letters, she removed it. We were trying to look out to for your best interest, and then now have been told that we can't.
No, I wasn't quite done. Okay, finish. I would like the board to see, if you haven't already, all communications between the village president and Crown Community Development, our attorneys and staff regarding the latest Crown Community Development issue with this flooding. I think this will help the board get more complete picture of what is being conveyed and how it's being conveyed. Since there has been multiple times we have been on the brink of being sued by Crown for breach of contract, the board needs to get a full understanding of what is causing this unproductive relationship. This project needs to be managed and dealt with in a more controlled and mature manner to ensure the best outcome of the village.
To quickly respond, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those disclaimers. They are reasonable, as you did not address the second part of the state statute. But yes, I'm unwilling to accept disclaimers on engineering, just a signature, like not. Trustee Linden?
I just wanted to mention that with all the storms that we've had, that our Public Works Department has been working very, very hard, and it's much appreciated that their response, tree removals and brush cleanup, and yes, I understand they're a little bit behind, but the response is much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren. Question on that. Someone asked today, I think it's just like people are a little bit behind, but someone was asking along the east, on the east side of Route 47, was everything picked up today, or will there be one more?
They're still trying to get to everything.
Okay,
And
sounds good.
they went through some spots this morning, and then this afternoon there were piles added. So
Okay.
it's gonna be more than one trip, and this always happens. So
Okay.
we should hopefully be done with most brush pickup by this week. We still have a couple very large ones in Dugan Woods that are gonna probably take a day apiece.
Okay,
So,
thank you very much.
yeah.
Trustee Special.
Again, thank Public Works and the Police Department. Obviously, the Fire Department did put a letter thanking Public Works for their response during all the storms that we suffered through, so thank you. And I guess it's not really a report, it's a question. I'm kind of confused with what Jeff said. Did you say you're trying to protect the village and not saying that it's TIF approved? I'm confused.
The final engineering review, right? They submit their final engineering plans for a phase that goes back and forth until they meet the village ordinances related to the final engineering. When we are writing that letter at the end to say it meets the final engineering, our disclaimer states that it's just the final engineering that we're saying that it meets. They were not doing any submittals related to the TIF reimbursement, so we want to make it clear that when the village is providing approval for the final engineering for that specific neighborhood or unit that they are doing, that again, the village is not giving approval for reimbursement. That's a wholly separate process where they will have to justify that, as we've discussed tonight. So we don't want it, again, to be misconstrued as to why we put that statement within a review letter for the final engineering that the village is approving the reimbursement. Give you your say down the road when appropriate, when the appropriate information is filed to make that claim.
To me, it seems reasonable. Yeah.
We would have thought that that was protecting you overall, but then I've been instructed to remove it.
So if EEI is saying we are not evaluating this in conjunction with the TIF reimbursement, it's reasonable to not have that on everything because that is what I am saying. No professional has signed off on it. So if you sign off, EEI is in fact signing off on that.
Well, I think he's saying at that point, he's doing that because that's just engineering, it's not the TIF.
Yeah, which is, yeah.
If you want them to sign on a TIF or something like that, that's a whole different thing.
Okay. We're all on the same page with that. Nobody's saying that there's anything.
I think the administrator
I think we're just going
needs,
to the same thing.
information
For all
from the
the same
attorney, because I'm still confused, I'm
Right.
sorry. Maybe it's because of my brain right now,
Yeah.
but
I don't think we need to go over this again, but nobody's.
not here.
Village President Stillwell,
Not here.
would you like us to include that disclaimer in the future?
No, I'm unwilling to accept disclaimers on engineering, which is why I'm requesting from Kimley Horn that they address the requirements of the TIF.
But his disclaimer, all due respect, his disclaimer is regarding engineering. There's two different things. Disclaimer versus engineering requirements and TIF are completely different. So I think he's got a good point that disclaimer has to be there for engineering because
I mean,
if it's valid for engineering, it might be valid for TIF.
This is a very complex thing that I'm frankly not really up for right now. But EEI,
That's what you're
along this
elected for.
entire process, has done several things that for example, the Montgomery TIF were not done. Like if this was done correctly from the beginning, maybe that would be reasonable. But at this time, we're in this position because of actions that EEI took. And no, I'm not willing to let them keep saying, issuing disclaimers to try to get themselves out of it. If you're gonna be involved with it, then you're just gonna put your signature on it.
But the purposes of the disclaimer is it's a separate thing. He's saying a disclaimer is for engineering. It's two different things.
I understand, except their actions right now we have no,
I think this needs to be brought back.
yeah, this
for,
is not, we don't need to do this.
Discussion,
Trustee reports. But thank you for
an
the
agenda
additional
item.
information.
I second
Because
that.
I don't think the village president has
When we have the,
authority to make a
And I would
decision.
just like to add, there's a larger disclaimer that goes along with it. We are not the design engineers. We are not the ones liable if there is a design flaw. So we do, it's standard with every community we represent. So if you're talking about disclaimers, that is something that will remain on ours from a risk liability standpoint.
that's completely reasonable.
I just heard no disclaimers.
Yeah.
We're fine taking off the
That-
TIF one if that's the direction from the board, no problem. But I
That's
can't
not the
take off the
direction from the
engineering
Wait,
one.
how about we
That's not the
don't
direction.
decide this in trustee reports? How about we decide it when
No.
the plat is presented in front of us? How about we discuss it then? Because trustee reports is not an appropriate time to be discussing the disclaimers and
That's
the
how a
TIF and
trustee gets
EEI's
something
action.
brought up to the agenda, so. It's unfortunately, it extends the length of the meeting, but this is the protocol, this is how you do it.
We don't have that plat in front of us, and
Right, but
there's a whole huge discussion
It's
with
not
the
the plat that's an issue, it's the disclaimer.
The disclaimer on the plat,
Right.
on the engineering.
But it needs to be brought back as an
And
agenda.
I agree with trustee Michaels to bring it back to a board meeting. We need an opinion from the
You wanna
village
bring,
attorney.
you wanna bring back whether
A
a
disclaimer
disclaimer should be on the
discussion.
Area 2 plat that hasn't been presented yet?
I'm so confused, I don't even know.
That's what I'm
we're
saying.
talking
This
about.
is
It's in our
completely
review letter, not
inappropriate
on the
time.
plat, just for clarification.
It came along with the last plat.
It must be of interest because you brought it up and so did our consultant, so it needs to be brought.
So that's something
I also
two
agree.
trustees can add to the agenda.
And,
Okay, I second
okay, we'll be adding whether there can be a disclaimer on the Area 2 plat and engineering that are not up for review. Who's,
it. Or whatever you're talking about.
okay, who's trustee
Sorry,
is?
I'm done. I think you were past me, I don't know.
I think that came from your discussion, Tony. I believe that trustee Michaels is up next.
Okay.
First off, trustee Special, I'm sorry about Rita Bass.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any good trustee has a good support staff and starts at home, so she was a great person.
Thank you.
For Scott, if you would, since we didn't talk about village hall options, one thing I was going to bring up tonight is purchasing a lot in the 160, 140 Municipal Drive, there's supposed to be 5 lots over there. There's only 2 buildings, so there's 3 possible lots that we could potentially buy and build out. And so I'd like to add that to your presentation as an alternative.
Yeah, so I didn't just, and I'm happy to bring it back as was, the motion was made. I had included there just about generally about buying land or buying existing property, so that I'm happy to include that as part of the presentation. That's all. Thank you.
Trustee Ross.
Only I want to say is we're all on this board for a reason, is to do things right for the public. I just wish we would do less arguing with each other. That's all I have to say.
Trustee Mountain.
I second that. The trustee next to me here, there's a level of decorum that's expected, and I feel that people are not meeting that level, and it's embarrassing, and I don't even know where to begin with some of the things. But once again, I want to send my condolences to Trustee Special, Farida. She was a lovely lady, and I appreciate you taking the time and coming tonight to this. I know it wasn't an easy thing to do, so thank you. And I want to also just reiterate with EEI, thank you so much for all the things you've done, all the things you're doing, and the borderline slander that's happening is just disrespectful, not to you, only you, but to the residents of this town that have elected this board to represent them. So I apologize on behalf of myself and for the residents that maybe don't understand what's going on, or they do and they're just afraid to come here from the backlash from other people. So I hope we can continue our working relationship together. If you choose not to, I completely understand. I would be sad to see you guys go, but it's disheartening. I'm kind of at a loss of words, so that's all I have.
Thank you. President's report this evening. I also don't like arguing with everyone. And typically I don't. Typically I'm someone that brings people together. Unfortunately, this situation is one in which numerous things were done incorrectly in the process, and I cannot just stay quiet. I'm here for a reason. I was elected for a reason, and that is to advocate for the residents. Would it be easier if I didn't ask questions? Yes. Would it be easier if I did not stand up for these things and say, hey, it is wrong to not disclose studies, to hide information, to not provide FOIA responses? Would it be easier if I didn't do all this research? Yes. That JRB meeting and all of those slides took me an enormous amount of time. While I was doing all that research, that is how I found that this study had never been disclosed to the public and wasn't on our servers prior to 2025. If anyone thinks I'm enjoying this, like, yay, this political career and arguing with everyone and all that, this is not fun, but it is my job to advocate for the residents. It is not easy, but I will continue doing it. I do hope that as a board, we can, and I definitely believe we will. Often we usually get along. I do think we'll find our footing again and be able to work well together, but with this current situation and this conflict, sometimes these hard things have to be done. That is it. There is no executive session this evening. Is there a motion and a second to adjourn?
I got a motion to adjourn.
We have first from Trustee Michaels and a second from Trustee Special.